Hello and welcome to another episode of Linux Essentials. In this video, we are going to cover the find command. It's one of my favorite commands. I use it to find things when I can't find things on my Linux systems. And that's great because I'm constantly forgetting things. I mean, half the time, I don't even know where I left my car keys. And sometimes I even lose my train of thought in the middle of, wait, why are you here? Oh, the video, right. We're talking about the find command in this video because with the find command, I never lose anything on my Linux systems, and I love this command, and I'm really excited to tell you about it. And another thing that I'm also excited to tell you about is my sponsor for this video, Linode. Linode has been doing cloud computing since 2003, which is actually before Amazon Web Services was even a thing. On Linode's platform, you can get your server up and running in minutes, and they include all of the popular distributions such as CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, and get this, also Arch Linux. And let's be honest, what could be better than a Linux cloud server provider that allows you to tell all of your friends, I run Arch? Linode has multiple server plans available to make any app scalable and flexible. You can use it to host a blog, set up a VPN server, a Minecraft server, or you could do what I did and set up a website for your YouTube channel because the official website for Learn Linux TV runs on Linode. And Linode offers 24/7 365 support regardless of plan size, so you can get live help from a real person when you need it. New users can get started right now with $100 in credit towards a new account. And I highly recommend you check them out because Linode is awesome. Thank you so much to Linode for sponsoring this video and many others on Learn Linux TV. I really appreciate it. And now, without any further hesitation, let's get into the topic at hand and explore the find command. Now, first things first, the find command has a ton of different options that you can use, so it's impossible for me to go over every option in one video. And even though I'm not going to go over every option in this video, the examples I will be giving you will give you all the information you need in order to start using this command, and you'll be able to add it to your daily workflow. So let's start with a very simple example of the find command. So we'll start out by typing find. And then what we'll do is we'll type the path where we want to start our search from. And it could be any directory on the file system that you have access to. And I want to start my search in my home directory. So I just type the path where I want to start my search from, and I can add some additional options here to help narrow down the search and tell the find command exactly what I'm looking for. So let's add the option -name. So I'm telling the find command so far that I want to start my search in my home directory /home/j, and I want to find objects by name. And I'm going to search for any file that ends in .txt. The asterisk is a wildcard. It basically means anything. So anything.txt. If I have more than one file that ends in .txt in my home directory, it should return more than one result. Let's see what happens. And you can see that I have several files here in my home directory that end in .txt. Now we can ignore the .cache directory because I'm not really interested in that. This is the only actual text file that I've created myself in my home directory, or at least on purpose. We have hidden directories that begin with a period, as you can see here. So I have this text file right here that I might use again in another example in this video, but you get the point. I was able to use the find command. So I started it out with find. I typed a path where I want to start my search from. I used the option -name. I want to find things by name. And this is the search criteria right here. Now, how can I actually search my home directory and not have these hidden files show up here? Maybe I am not interested in things that are in my .cache directory or my .mozilla directory, and I'm actually, truthfully, not interested in those. So let's see how we can change the find command to take that into account. And again, here's the command that we've just used. And the beauty of Linux as well as Unix is that we can chain commands together. So I'll add the pipe symbol, I'll pipe it into grep, I'll add the -v option, and then I'll type .cache. Let's see what happens. So as we can see here, we are not seeing lines of output that include .cache because I chained the find command into grep, and now I can withhold those particular results. Now, what if you want to include results that are only of a particular type? For example, let's say that you are only interested in files, or perhaps you are only interested in directories. Sometimes it's possible that you could have directories and files that are named similarly, and you might see both in the results. So I'll illustrate the problem first, and then I'll show you how to solve it. So I'll type find, and what I'm going to do instead of typing the entire path to my home directory is I'll type a period, because I'm currently in my home directory. So for example, if I do pwd, I'm in my home directory. So I'll type find and then dot, because I want to start my search from right here. And I want to find items that are named documents. Now notice that I'm not using a star, so I'm not globbing anything here. I want to find something that is exactly named documents. So I'll press enter. And two things showed up here. And I set it up like this on purpose to trick you guys. So let's actually look at the results in greater detail to understand what exactly you're seeing right here. If I list the storage of my local working directory, you can see that I have a documents directory right here. So if I list the storage of that, you can see that I have a file that is also named documents. And as a reminder from a previous video when I went over permissions, we can see in the permission string, I have a D right here, which means that this particular item is a directory. And then here, inside the documents directory, I have a file named documents. I did that specifically to trick you guys. We have a hyphen right here, which shows that it is actually a file. So let's change the find command and only return files and not directories. So here's the find command that we've just used. And I'm going to add a brand new option here. It's going to be -type, just like that. And I'm going to add F to that option. So I could do D for directory or F for file. So with this example, I want to find in my current working directory any objects that are exactly named documents, and I want to return results only when the item is a file. Again, that's what -type is for. So I'll press enter, and you can see that it only returned the documents file that's inside the documents directory. It did not return the documents directory itself. For comparison, if I take that option off, you can see that I get two lines of output, the documents directory itself, and then the documents file that's inside the documents directory. So this is just an example of the fact that you can actually narrow down the results based on the type of item that it is, a file or a directory. So what I'm going to do right now is show you guys another example. And this time I'm going to add the exec option. So I'm going to type find yet again. And then dot, I want to start my search where I am right now. Nothing new there. And I want to find items that are of type file. And the name is going to have to be documents. And what I want to do is get rid of that file. I want to delete it because it's very confusing to have a documents file inside a documents directory. So I want to get rid of it. Now, to be fair, I could just use the rm command. It'd be a lot faster. But even though this example isn't going to be very practical, it'll show you what the exec option actually does. And we'll actually be using the exec option in at least one more example here coming up. So I want to get rid of that file. So I'm going to type rm, open curly brace, closing curly brace, and then plus. And don't worry, I'll explain everything that this command is doing here in just a moment, but let's execute it and see what happens. Okay, well, it doesn't look like anything has happened at all. And I'll list the storage of my documents directory. Let's see what's inside. And only one file is inside that directory. So the documents file has been removed. So let's explain this command right here so you can understand everything that's going on here. First of all, we have the find command itself. You already know what that is, and you know what that is as well. And we've also gone over the type option already, and we've gone over the name option as well. Exec means that we want to execute a command against every item in the results. And the command that I want to execute against every item is the rm command. I want to remove everything that shows up when I run this command. So be very careful when you are chaining anything into the rm command, because you could remove more than you think you are. So this is probably one of those that you might not want to execute on a production server. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'm going to execute the rm command against everything that comes up in the results. And only one item would have came up anyway because I only had one file that meets this criteria. The curly braces that we have right here is a placeholder for the actual item itself. So every time the find command finds something, it's going to put that something in place of the curly braces. So you could almost think of this as a for loop. It's going to execute this against every item that it finds, and the curly braces represent each item that comes up. And the plus at the end is a terminator. It's the end of the command. We're basically closing each iteration off. Now, another variation that you'll often see is / semicolon like that. A semicolon is another way to terminate a find command. But when you use a semicolon, you have to have a / in front of it, just like you see here, to escape it out. And that's an issue with the shell. I'm not going to get into that, but basically you need to terminate the find command anytime you are using the exec option like I'm doing here. So you can have / semicolon, or you could just add a plus just like that. And either method is valid. Now let's see a more practical example. And what I've done is I've added a bunch of files here to my laptop to serve as examples. So inside my pictures directory, I copied over this directory right here, and this is from a nature trail walk that I went on last year. I love going on nature trails, one of my favorite things, and I also love photography as well. And inside that directory, I have a bunch of files. What I'm going to do is add the -L option so you can see the permissions. And there you go. So let's say, for example, that I want to edit all of the permissions of everything under my pictures directory, and I want to do it all in one shot. Now, you don't actually need the find command in order to change permissions. So for example, I could use the chmod command. That's the standard command that we use in Linux to change the permissions on an object. I'll use the -R option because I want to change the permissions recursively. I want the changes that I'm about to make to apply to everything from that folder where I start this command all the way down to everything underneath it. And what I want to do is make the permissions of everything to be 600. I want to remove everything other than the permissions for the user itself. And I have an entire video that goes over permissions, so if any of this confuses you, don't worry about it. You can check out that video if you want to learn more about permissions. And I'm going to start this command from my pictures directory, because again, I want to change the permissions to 600, which effectively removes any access for anyone other than the user. So I'm going to press enter. And now we have a problem. The permission string is completely gone here. I mean, I can't even see anything at all. That's really weird. So if I list the storage of my home directory, we have the pictures directory right here, but when I take a look at that, I can't actually see what's inside that directory. So let me go inside that directory to see if I could fix this problem. Except I can't. Why can't I? Here's my pictures directory. I am the owner of that directory, but I can't go inside that directory. What is going on here? Well, when I executed that chmod command, I gave it a permission of 600, which actually removes the execute bit that would have been right here. Now, 600 is fine for files. You don't actually have to have execute on files, but you do need execute on directories in order to go inside of the directory. So I have effectively locked myself out of that directory. So what I'm going to do is run the chmod command again, and I'm going to fix the permissions, and then I'll show you how to do it with the find command, which will avoid this problem in the first place. So I'm going to execute the chmod command, and again, I'm going to use the recursive option. That's the capital R right there. And I typed u plus x, which means user plus execute. So the user that owns this object, I want to add the execute bit. So I'll press enter. And now we have the execute bit right here. And now I'm actually able to see the permission string as well. So far so good. But what's not so great is that I have execute on everything, and that's not really a problem. These are just pictures. But I really don't like to have execute on things that aren't actually a program, things that aren't actually something that I'd like to execute. So what I want to do at this point is correct the permissions on everything, but I only want to do it with one command. So back in my home directory, I can go ahead and get started and see how can we actually do this properly. And this is where the find command comes in. So I'm going to type find. And I'm going to start the search in my pictures directory. And I want to look for files only. I don't want to return directories. That was my problem. I want to basically remove the execute bit. In fact, I want to remove the group access also from every file, but I don't want to do this against folders, which again will lock me out. Okay, so now we're looking for files, but how do we actually change the permissions on the things that the find command returns? Again, we can use exec. And what we'll do is exec chmod. I'm not going to use the -r option though. And I want the permissions on all the files that this returns to be 600. I'll put in the curly braces and then I'll add a plus sign at the end. So let's walk through this. You already know what that is. And you already know that I am starting my search in my pictures directory. But I only want to return files because I certainly don't want to execute the chmod command against folders. So I'm going to limit my search just to files. And for everything that it returns, I'm going to execute something. And what I want to execute is chmod 600. Then again, we have the curly braces as a placeholder there. And then we are terminating the find command. Now let's see if this command works any better. So the permissions for my pictures directory, that looks okay to me. I have the execute bit there, and I don't have access on group or world, so far so good. Let's go inside that directory then, and list the storage. Now here, I don't like these permissions, but that's okay because with the find command, I was specifically looking for files, not folders, so the find command wouldn't have done anything to this folder right here. So inside there, I have the correct permission, as you can see right here, on every single item. If I wanted to run the same command, and I wanted to run it against directories only, I'll just recall it. There it is. I'll change this to D. I'll change this to 700. Those are decent permissions to have for folders in my own home directory. So I just changed this command a little bit. And we are still good on the pictures directory. And we can see that the permissions have changed on this item right here on this folder. And we still have the correct permissions for the files. And the thing is, I actually prefer to use the find command to correct permissions, because there's some permissions that you want on files and some permissions that you want on directories, and you're often going to make them different. So using the find command to correct permissions is a good habit to get into, especially when you are managing a file server. And what I'm going to do now is give you yet another example. So in my var log directory, I obviously have some logs here, but a lot of them end in .log. And the thing is, it's very common on a Linux server that log files just become very large and they just eat up space. So what I'm going to do is actually clear every log file that ends in .log. I'm going to empty them out in one command. And maybe this is a situation where I need emergency space. My server is going to crash. It's 100% full. Obviously, I probably could have had the var directory mounted on a different partition. And I probably don't really want to clear logs because logs have very important information in them. So you might not want to be so quick to clear logs. But sometimes if you have a situation where you just can't do anything because the disk is completely full, and perhaps you want to clear log files, then what are you going to do? The find command is something that you can use for this purpose. But what I'm going to need to do is run sudo first before I actually run the command, because I need root level privileges for the items inside var log. So again, I'll execute the find command. I'll start my search in the var log directory. I want to do a type of F. I want to return files. And I want the name to be star.log, so anything ending in .log. And what I want to do is clear them out, so I'm going to execute something to clear them out. Well, wait a minute. This is actually a bad idea. When you are dealing with a production server, before you execute something, what you're going to want to do is see what the results are first, so that you are sure that what you are executing this command against is what you think you are going to be executing this command against. Otherwise, you could actually clear things that you didn't mean to. So we're going to test the command by not executing anything. I want to see what the results are going to be. So I'll press enter. And because I use sudo, I need to type in the password. And right here, we have a list of log files that are in that directory that match my requirements. And I'm okay with this. As you can see, these are all files. They're all log files. They end in .log. And yeah, there's files inside var log that don't end in .log, but we're ignoring that. I'm okay with these results here. So here's that command again. So I'm going to execute something. And what I want to execute is the truncate command. -S for size. I want to truncate every file that comes up in the results to a size of exactly 0. Again, I'll add the curly braces. And I'll end the command with a plus sign, as you see here. And let's see what happened. So what you can see is that the log files that came up in the results, for example, snapper.log, the WPA log, the zipper log, they have a size of 0. So the truncate command is able to truncate a file down to a specific size. In this case, I had it truncate the files down to a size of 0. So it looks like the command worked. Now, of course, there's all kinds of different options that you can use with the find command. There's actually quite a bit to it. But what I've given you so far, it just makes it easy to find something, especially if you lost something. Sometimes you can even use it to simply get a list of files. So for example, I could find here in my home directory any file with a name that ends in .mp3. I'll press enter, and I have a bunch of files here. And of course, Lacuna Coil is my favorite band, so any opportunity I can get to mention them, I usually take it. But that doesn't really matter. The command worked. These are the MP3s that I just happen to have in my music directory. They show up right here. So if I wanted to send someone a list of the results, that's pretty easy. I could just use the greater than sign, and this is not specific to find. The results of anything can be piped into a file. And I'll name the file results.txt. And if I cat the contents of that file, you can see that I have the same listing right there. But that's just yet another example, but I'll leave it up to you and your imagination to see where all you can use the find command. And I'm sure that I forgot some very obvious examples of the find command, but again, there's so many different variations, it's impossible to show them all to you. But with what I've shown you so far, I think you should have all the base knowledge you need to start using the find command in your daily toolset. So as you can see, the find command is awesome. Once you memorize even just a few of the options that it has available, you'll be able to find things on your Linux file system no problem. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel. I have some awesome videos coming very soon. And definitely click that like button if you liked this video. That helps YouTube understand that you want to see more awesome Linux content just like this. Thanks for watching.